The title of this project is, I just needed to check, it's I Hope All Is Well and Life Seems a Little Calmer for You Now. When we first started the project and you went through what your research was about, I remember feeling a bit overwhelmed, and me and Grace were in the archive room being like, archive, and like waiting for an idea to jump out while we were just flicking through stuff. And then there were certain objects that we'd like put to a side and feel like really drawn to for some reason. And then when we were going over the notes from our first meeting, we were looking at your 5 strands of research, and we kind of worked out that the different objects that we'd picked mostly fitted into those strands of research. So that's how we started it, really thinking, right, we've got these 5 strands, let's get 5 objects and then decide what we're going to do with them. The thing that I was most focused on was the different methods of communication that were in the archive. So it went from floppy disks to DV tapes that we were sure we were never going to even be able to access. There's a lot of film slides. I think most of them had been like mailed to Castlefield for submissions for stuff. And I was really interested in how they were all housed. There's just a huge box of all of these DV tapes with like hours and hours of footage on that at the time when we first got in the archive, I felt like we would not be able to ever watch them. I think I want audiences to be able to see like the little things in the archive being highlighted. So I like someone that's got a, you know, like a rejection note that they've just like quickly deleted and not thought about it again, or someone there's been a debate about whether they should get a show and they've never even known that debate has happened, but their name's been on a table at one point. And I think all of these tiny little details are the thing that makes up the gallery and makes up the history of the gallery. Grace works as like very socially engaged artist, and I do a lot of workshops, so I think it's ingrained, it's in my blood to have an audience participation section. And I guess the whole show is really romanticised and really overly sincere, because that is just who me and Grace are as people, I think. So I wanted to do this really overly sincere part. Instead of give us some feedback on the show, we did, could you put a wish for the future of the art world into a jar? And the idea is we can get not just feedback on the show, but on how people are feeling about galleries on a whole. And they can then be hopefully actioned by Castlefield.
So my work is based upon my Onion Spawn series, which is a series that I've been working on for the past couple of months, based upon using the onion as a metaphor for identity and exploration of fashion, of heritage, history, cultural archives, and imagination. So the process is really intensive for me, because I do a lot of reading first, and sort of like digging into the archives and sort of sitting with quotes or sentences that like really resonate with me. This particular series is based upon Nellie Musson's book, Mind the Onion Seed, which is actually out of print now. So I've had to sort of access the book by scanned copies, which is interesting, that process of accessing but not really having something like tangible in front of you. And so what's interesting is that the starting point for the work sort of comes out of digital space. And so it's moving from a place of intangibility and moving to a place of tangibility by sitting with the ideas and the processes and the thoughts about the work, and then taking materials such as watercolor, ink, collage. I'm using some print media, archival imagery, and sort of morphing them together to create new formations, which is exciting because, you know, when I think about how I want the work to communicate, I'm thinking about how there's movement in the work and how the formations are growing and evolving and spawning, if you will. work with the sculpture, which is, 3D form, was quite different. I am typically a collage-based artist, like that's my primary medium. And so trying to work in a different medium has definitely been challenging, but it's been exciting for me to, grab new skills. Initially, I began sewing and doing some sort of like tapestry quilt working, which is interesting because I felt like that was sort of a natural progression from collage because I approach my quilt making in the same way that I approach collage. But it's also really special, like I think, to be able to see the forms that are in the onion spawns in a 3D form. I think it translated really well, and I think, it came out, I think, better than I envisioned that it would. When artists put work out into public space, like it then becomes like something that other people can lean into and take their own meaning from. I had fun making it, so I hope that people like really enjoy it when they encounter the work.